In 2012, virtual reality was a punchline until a teenager in a California garage strapped together a prototype with duct tape and defied the impossible. Overnight, thousands saw Oculus as the dream that could change the world forever. But just as that grassroots movement exploded, a corporate titan appeared, shaking everything to its core. How did a homespun revolution become a battleground for the future of reality itself? Palmer Luckey's garage didn't look like the birthplace of a revolution. Stacks of old electronics, spools of wire, and a battered workbench set the stage for a project that most experts had written off as impossible. At 17, Luckey was already obsessed with the idea of virtual reality. He wanted to build something that felt real, not just another toy doomed to gather dust. The odds were stacked against him. VR in the 1990s had promised the world and delivered only headaches, with narrow fields of view, heavy helmets, and so much lag that even the most patient users felt sick. The technology was stuck in a rut, locked away in university labs and military simulators, far from the hands of ordinary people. Luckey took a different approach. Instead of chasing expensive custom hardware, he scavenged for parts that had suddenly become cheap and powerful thanks to the smartphone boom. He pulled LCD screens from old phones, grabbed motion sensors from hobby drones, and used plastic lenses designed for budget projectors. Duct tape and foam padding held the whole thing together. The result looked crude, but when Luckey strapped on his prototype, something clicked. For the first time, a headset delivered a 90-degree field of view, 3 times wider than most consumer attempts before it. The screen was close enough to fill your vision, and the lightweight lenses, paired with clever software, warped the image to match the curve of the eye. The world inside the headset felt big, not boxed in. But the real breakthrough came from solving the problem of latency. Early VR made users feel disconnected, with a noticeable delay between head movement and the image shifting. Luckey's prototype borrowed fast sensors from radio control hobby kits, tracking motion in real time and slashing the lag that had haunted previous designs. The effect was immediate. Users didn't just see a virtual world, they felt presence inside it. This sensation, known as presence, had been the holy grail of VR for decades. Hold on a minute. If you're enjoying what you see so far, I hope you'll consider subscribing. It helps me preserve the history of these untold tech stories. Now, let's continue. Luckey's garage build achieved it with parts anyone could buy online. He shared his progress openly on MTBS 3D, a virtual reality forum where a handful of diehards traded tips and schematics. Luckey posted photos, build logs, and technical breakdowns, inviting feedback from anyone willing to test his ideas. Each suggestion from the community led to another tweak: bigger lenses, a lighter enclosure, better head straps. He wasn't just building a device, he was building momentum. The Rift prototype became a legend in niche circles, a symbol that maybe, just maybe, VR's time had come. By the spring of 2012, Luckey's 6th-generation prototype could be assembled by hand, using off-the-shelf smartphone screens and cheap plastic. It was still rough around the edges, but it delivered a level of immersion that shocked everyone who tried it. The Rift didn't just update old technology, it redefined what was possible in a garage, with duct tape and a vision for something bigger. The impossible suddenly felt within reach, and for the first time in years, the world started to pay attention. Excitement around Palmer Luckey's prototype reached a fever pitch the moment John Carmack stepped in. Carmack, known for creating Doom and Quake, had spent years chasing the dream of immersive gaming. When he spotted Luckey's posts on the VR forums, he reached out directly, asking for a prototype to test with his own hands. At E3 in 2012, Carmack stunned the industry by demoing Doom 3 on the Rift, rewriting the game's code live to support the homemade headset. His verdict was simple: This was the first time virtual reality actually felt real. Word spread like wildfire. Carmack's endorsement electrified the gaming world, turning a garage project into a global movement overnight. Suddenly, developers and hardware hackers from every corner wanted in. Forums lit up with speculation. Gabe Newell at Valve and Cliff Bleszinski from Epic Games added their voices, urging others to support the project. The old narrative that VR was a dead end collapsed in a matter of days. In August 2012, Lucky launched the Oculus Rift Kickstarter. The goal was $250,000 to fund a run of developer kits. That number vanished in hours. Backers poured in from around the world, pledging not just for hardware, but for a stake in the future of VR. Within 24 hours, units were selling at a pace of 4 to 5 per minute. By the time the campaign closed, nearly 9,500 people had pledged over $2.4 million, almost 10 times the original target. The project page buzzed with updates, technical breakdowns, and a promise from Lucky himself. "I won't make a penny of profit off this project. The goal is to pay for the costs, with about $10 left over for a celebratory pizza and beer." The developer kit, DK1, was rough, unfinished, and proudly open. Early backers knew they were not buying a polished product. They were joining a cause. Forums filled with build logs, unboxing videos, and wild speculation about what VR could become. Indie developers and hardware tinkerers started hacking on the kit, writing new code, building experimental worlds, and sharing discoveries in real time. Every new project, every bug fix, every bit of feedback fed back into the community. The Rift's open schematics and Lucky's willingness to share every detail turned the campaign into a rallying point for anyone frustrated by the old, closed-off world of tech. The numbers told the story. $2.4 million raised, 9,500 backers, hundreds of developer kits shipped within months. But the real impact was harder to measure. For the first time, the dream of virtual reality belonged to everyone willing to believe. The Oculus Kickstarter didn't just fund a device. It lit the fuse for a new ERA, powered by community, collaboration, and the wild hope that VR's time had finally come. On March 25, 2014, news broke that Facebook had acquired Oculus VR for $2 billion. The number stunned the tech world. Oculus, only 2 years removed from a garage and a Kickstarter campaign, had become the object of a bidding war. Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook's founder and chief executive officer, was not interested in just another gaming peripheral. He said that Oculus had the chance to create the most social platform ever and change the way we work, play, and communicate. The deal included $400 million in cash and 23.1 million shares of Facebook stock, then valued at $1.6 billion. For a company with no consumer product on the market, the scale was almost unheard of. Zuckerberg's vision reached far beyond gaming. He saw Oculus as a gateway to the next major computing platform, a future where people would meet, learn, and even work in virtual spaces. Facebook's official announcement described virtual reality as the platform of tomorrow. Inside Oculus, the promise of Facebook's resources opened new possibilities. The development team suddenly had access to world-class engineers, global data centers, and a marketing machine that reached billions. The company could now afford to take bigger risks, speed up hardware development, and pursue partnerships that had once seemed out of reach. Zuckerberg made it clear. He wanted Oculus to be more than a device. He wanted it to become the backbone of a massive, interconnected virtual world. For Facebook, the acquisition was a strategic move to protect its dominance in the shifting landscape of technology. Zuckerberg had watched the rise of mobile and understood how quickly the center of power could move. By bringing Oculus into the fold, he was betting that virtual reality would become as essential as smartphones, and that Facebook would own the platform where billions would spend their digital lives. The $2 billion deal sent a message to the entire industry. Virtual reality was no longer a fringe experiment. With Facebook's backing, Oculus had the capital and influence to shape the future of computing. But with that power came new questions about who would control the dream and whose vision would define what virtual reality would become. The backlash began before the ink on the Facebook deal was dry. Forums that once buzzed with excitement for the Rift lit up with anger and disbelief. Backers who had championed Oculus on Kickstarter felt blindsided. Many had pledged hundreds of dollars, not for a finished product, but for the promise of open, community-driven virtual reality. Now that dream seemed to have been packaged up and sold without a second thought for the people who helped build it. Reddit threads exploded with titles like "RIP Oculus" and "We were taken advantage of." The sense of betrayal ran deep, sharpened by the language of the original campaign. Palmer Luckey had promised transparency and collaboration. He had written that he would not make a penny of profit off this project. The reality of a multi-billion-dollar acquisition left many feeling like unpaid beta testers who had assumed all the risk and none of the reward. Kickstarter's terms, buried in the fine print, made it clear that backers were not investors. They would get no share of the windfall, no voice in the future of the company, and no guarantee their vision would survive. The outrage was not just about money. It was about trust. Developers who had poured months into building for an open platform suddenly faced the prospect of a closed, corporate-controlled ecosystem. Marcus Persson, better known as Notch, creator of Minecraft, captured the mood with a single tweet. He said that talks about bringing a version of Minecraft to Oculus had ended. He canceled that plan and said that Facebook creeps him out. His decision echoed across the industry, a warning that the grassroots spirit of virtual reality was under threat. Legal debates flared over what backers were actually owed. Some demanded refunds. Others called for new laws to protect crowdfunders from being cut out of future success. Journalists and ethicists weighed in, questioning whether the rules of crowdfunding had failed to keep pace with the ambitions of Silicon Valley. Kickstarter itself reiterated that backers funded rewards, not equity, no matter how much they believed in the project. For many in the community, the Facebook acquisition felt like watching a dream get bought out from under them. The Rift had started as a rallying point for open innovation. Now its future would be decided behind closed doors, by executives and shareholders. The fracture between the visionaries and the corporation was complete. The question was not just what Oculus would become, but whether the dream of community-powered virtual reality could survive at all. In 2016, Oculus released the Rift CV1, the first consumer-ready headset from a company that had started in a garage just a few years earlier. The Rift CV1 delivered 1080 by 1200 pixels per eye at 90 Hz, with integrated headphones for spatial audio and a constellation of external sensors to track movement in space. But for all its technical achievement, the Rift still faced a major obstacle. It needed a powerful gaming PC, a tangle of cables, and a dedicated play area. For most people, that meant virtual reality was still out of reach. Inside Oculus, a new challenge took shape. Engineers and designers, now backed by Facebook's deep pockets, set out to break free from the desk and the desktop. The goal was ambitious: build a headset that worked anywhere without wires or a computer. That vision became the Oculus Quest, announced in 2018 and shipped in May 2019. The Quest was a self-contained device, running on a mobile chip, with all the sensors and cameras packed inside the headset. For the first time, users could walk around, duck, and dodge in virtual space. No external hardware required. The leap came from inside-out tracking. Instead of relying on external cameras or base stations, the Quest used 4 built-in cameras to map the room and track both the headset and the controllers in real time. This approach slashed setup time from hours to minutes. The Quest's $399 price tag put it within reach of far more people than the PC-tethered Rift ever could. Sales outpaced every previous Oculus device, and developers rushed to build new games and apps for the growing audience. As Oculus shifted from the Rift to the Quest, the original founders began to depart, their roles replaced by teams focused on scaling the technology for mass adoption. The technical leap, from a device that required a high-end personal computer to an all-in-one headset, opened the door for millions to experience virtual reality for the first time. The Quest's success wasn't just about hardware, it was about making virtual reality truly accessible, transforming a niche dream into a product anyone could pick up and use. In 2020, a single policy changed the rules for everyone in virtual reality. Meta, still known to most as Facebook, announced that every new Oculus headset would require a Facebook account to function. Existing users faced a deadline. By January 2023, their old Oculus logins would be disabled. The message was clear. Participation in the new virtual reality world meant surrendering to the company's social network and its data practices. For years, early adopters had chosen Oculus for the promise of freedom and independence. Now, the door was closing. The backlash was immediate. Forums filled with stories of users locked out of their own headsets, games lost, and years of investment erased if they refused to comply. Critics called it a power grab, pointing to Meta's history of using personal data to drive its advertising empire. Developers who had once celebrated the open spirit of virtual reality now faced a locked ecosystem, where every app and update required Meta's approval. The sense of ownership and community that defined the early days was replaced by the reality of a tightly controlled platform. While controversy raged, the company pressed ahead. The Quest 2, launched in October 2020, priced aggressively at $299. The device was wireless, powerful, and easy to use, no gaming personal computer required. Sales exploded, and by 2021, the Quest 2 accounted for nearly 80% of all virtual reality headsets sold worldwide. Meta's walled garden had become the dominant force in the industry, locking in millions of users and developers alike. Then, in late 2021, another change arrived. The Oculus name, once a symbol of grassroots innovation, was retired. All new devices would carry the Meta Quest brand. The dream that started in a garage, built on openness and community, now belonged to a corporate giant. The world of virtual reality had been remade, powerful, accessible, and tightly held within Meta's grasp. Today, over 20 million Meta Quests have reached living rooms worldwide, yet every login reminds us that the frontier is no longer open, but owned. As tech giants redraw the boundaries of our digital lives, the trade-off between innovation and control grows sharper. The next revolution won't just shape technology, it will decide who gets to dream. Thank you for watching. I'd be genuinely interested in hearing your opinion on this in the comments. If you want to see more videos like this, please make sure to subscribe. There's much more to come.